Sadie Nine. BBC. BBC Essex.
I had a phone call a little while ago, well, an email from a gentleman who said, I'm looking up something, you're involved in it, and I'd love you to give me an email back, which I did. What's it all about? Well, if you were around in 1987, then you would have seen this news report.
Good evening. We're getting reports that a ferry with more than 600 people on board has capsized off the coast of Belgium. The vessel is the Herald of Fleet Enterprise. She's part of the Townsend's tourism fleet. She was on her way from Zeebrugge to Dover. It's believed she left Zeebrugge sometime after 7 o'clock this evening. The Dover Coast Guard say she was carrying 590 passengers and some 60 crew. She is at present lying on her side about a mile from the entrance to Zeebrugge harbour.
It was just so awful. The pictures on the news were just so awful. I recently did an interview with Ethan Aaron Banks about the disaster. I'm very pleased to say he joins me now. Ethan, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Welcome, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, actually, because you'd seen me before. But I just wonder, what made you do this, Ethan?
Well, that's a good question, because for my dissertation project, I'm actually doing a 1980s entertainment website. So I'm focusing on music, film and TV. And I was just looking through different music that came out in the different years of the 80s. And one section came up about charity supergroups. And obviously with that, you got your Band Aid, your Band Aid 2. And I saw Ferry Aid, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute, what's that? So I looked into it more. And what I read, it was just horrific, absolutely horrific. 193 people died, that's including crew members as well. And, it raised such an incredible amount of money. £1 million it raised for the Zeebrugge Disaster Fund, which was set up by the Sun. And it was poignant for the Sun because on that day, on that night, many of the people on board were Sun readers because they were making use of that £1 trip return ticket.
Oh, crikey, I remember those. You don't really get them anymore now, I don't think. But yeah, it was the £1 ferry trips, wasn't it?
Yeah, and because it's the 36th anniversary today of when the single was released, I thought this would make a good story.
And it's certainly, let's have a little listen. So the single that Ethan's talking about is Let It Be, where a lot of people were invited, a lot of stars were invited to go and record and came out with this track, which, as you say, raised £1 million. Do you know, it's quite crazy. I haven't heard that for years, and I was honoured enough to be able to be invited to take part, and I was one of those singers in the chorus. I didn't get a solo line or anything, but I sang in the chorus, and we just continued singing, and the music had ended, and we just all continued singing because the feeling in the recording studios, Stockake and Waterman, it was Peter Waterman who was coming out to tell us what to do and how to do it and all that, and it was quite an incredible time. You weren't even born, were you, Ethan?
I wasn't, no. I was born in 2002.
Years after. So did your parents who would have known about this.
Yeah, but that's how I got into the whole 80s thing. My mum used to get her vinyls out. Dad used to put on the movies. We used to sit down and watch every Saturday. Only Fools and Horses repeats on Gold. And that's what just got me into it. And I just love it. And of course, with the movies now, they're playing ATV, like with Stranger Things, Kate Bush has gone up that hill. New people are discovering it, and that's how I fell in love with it.
So, what reaction have you had to it? Because who did you speak to? Who spoke to you from? Because obviously, I was one of the chorus. But who have you spoken to on the Let It Be song?
So I've spoken to the former Bizarre editor, now columnist at the Daily Express, Gary Bushell, who was actually behind. It was his idea. Funny enough, he was in the News International Wapping headquarters in London, in the canteen, spoke to Nick Ferrari of LBC and said, we need to do something. And the charity single idea spawned from them. And Yeah, I spoke to Neville Staple from the Specials and Fun Boy 3, Ruby Turner, R&B and soul singer, and former pastry model Jenny Blythe.
Right, so you've done well. Ruby Turner, a great voice, and I've sung with her. Is Ethan Aaron Banks, who's done a dissertation on Ferry Aid. It's a single that came out to raise money for the Zeebrugge Ferry Disaster, the Herald of Free Enterprise, where 193 people lost their lives. There were 590 passengers on that. It went down at 7 o'clock in the evening, so it was dark and cold. There were 590 passengers, 60 crew on board, and I'd worked on it just the week before. I was invited to be on Let It Be because I had a song out at the time. But I just wondered, very clever with your dissertation there. How on earth did you find that I was involved then?
Well, you know, as a journalism student, we have to conduct our research. So what I did was, I watched the music video. God, it must have been like 50 odd times, just to try and figure out with the choir scene, just to figure out, you know, where was who. And then I looked at the vinyl on Google Images, and there's a whole list on the back of who got involved. So I just sent an email to every single person. Just hoping someone would come back, but honestly, I'm so thankful that you and Ruby and Jenny and Gary and Neville all came back. I really appreciate it.
Well, number one, I've got nephews about your age, so I'm very happy to help with dissertations. I've helped with a few, actually. How did you do? Do you know how you've done? Has it gone in or not?
No, I haven't at the moment. So basically what happens is we have to get 20 sources worth of stories. So at the moment I've got 8 published. So just got another 16 to go, and I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
You are on your way. What have your parents thought about you doing this? Have they been any help? Because as you say,
they've been so incredibly supportive. They really have. They've given, you know, they're constantly moving me backwards and forwards to Sunderland, and you know, yeah, like I say, they're really supportive. And yes, they have given their knowledge of the 80s, which is very useful.
Did they remember this as well? Did they have any memories of this? Or maybe they're too young as well, you're so young.
Well, I mean, Mum and Dad, they obviously knew about it, but probably forgot because, you know, you don't really hear much about Ferry, do you? Like I say, it's always about Band Aid and Band Aid too.
Yeah.
So when I was going to do a story about this, I was like, oh, what's Ferry Aid then? And then I told her about it, and she was like, oh God, yeah, I remember that. And and she was just saying, you know, I remember where I was, and it was just horrific. People across the country felt shocked, didn't they, when the news broke?
Well, totally, because I think especially if you're in a county that has got ferries, as we have here in Essex, and you're a coastal county, and you know how rough and cold that sea can be, that you know, I think it hits doubly hard for some reason. I really do, when you think about people losing their lives. I was also in a show at the London Palladium for the survivors as well, with Jim Davidson and countless others there as well, doing a show for them at the Palladium as well, and hoping that the money got to those people, because there's survivors. You can't imagine when you've lost someone like that. We have lots of times things happen which are dreadful, but it's nice if you can help out at all. And I think all of us as performers, and we'd all worked on ferries and maybe cruises and that, and just realised, oh my goodness, if it went down, what would it do? So what's your next venture then, Ethan?
So the next venture is to hopefully get a job in journalism.
Well, you never know. You never know.
Yeah. Just got to keep writing, and then somebody will hopefully discover me and take me on.
Well, there you go. I mean, BBC is always looking for journalists. So, and honestly, we do a thing here, The Apprentice. And don't think it's just, you know, for young people who don't know anything. It's The Apprentice. And our 2 apprentices we had, Lauren, I mean, crikey, she's done fantastic. She's producing now here at BBC Essex. So watch out for that when it comes up, because I'll
just say real quick, you know, with the single, those affected, it's something for them to cherish forever and savor, isn't it? The single. without a doubt.
It is, because it's there as to what they went through, and they can tell their children and grandchildren and so on and so forth as to what it was. I certainly got mine out and dusted it off, and so thank you very much indeed. Thank you for finding me. That was very interesting. Very interesting how you did that, and yeah, support young people who are doing things like this. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for being my guest, my big guest. Absolute pleasure. Now, we've had a phone call from a gentleman who survived that dreadful disaster, and hopefully I'll be speaking to him after Blondie. Thank you very much indeed, Ethan. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.